Sarah, why don't you take it over? How did you get into farming?
Um, both myself and my husband are not born and raised farmers. We're first generation farmers. I'm from Calgary. This is where I grew up, and I'm a city girl. And Marcus, my husband, grew up in small towns of Alberta and then ended up in Calgary. So um, it's not like we are taking over a family farm or family land or anything like that. We just when we were starting to think about a family, we wanted to get into to doing farming and teaching our kids about where food comes from. And so, yeah, that's where it started from. And so then we um, we got our piece of property that is just north of Calgary, so it's only about an hour drive for us. We're still here, so this is the fun part too. We're still here in Calgary. We live here, and we don't live on our farm yet. This is part of the like first gen farming thing, is that when you buy a piece of land or you know and there's nothing there, you have to start picking away at it. It didn't even have like fences, or it was just bare property. So we've been, every year we take on a new major project to try and get the goal of us moving out there and being in one spot and just doing farming. So so that's kind of how we started out. And we do have two young boys, so that's part of our driving force behind that, is that before we even had kids, we realized that so many people didn't even realize like how a carrot grow, or like where a carrot comes from, right? Like that it's from a grocery store. It doesn't, like, they had no concept of it coming out of the ground. And Marcus and I were like, we grew up, either our parents or grandparents had gardens, and you were exposed to that at an early age. So it seemed bizarre to us that was just getting lost more and more with generations. And so I think that's where some of the passion of it came into, and the need. That was just like, our kids are not growing up like that. That's they have to know how to do this. They need to know about seeds and how things come up and caring for creation. And yeah, so there's like, you kind of lump in, like, there's homesteading, where you're just trying to do some more for yourself and have that connection to the land. And then we had thought about that too, just like maybe we just need a little bit of land, and we just start providing for ourselves, or like close friends, or because you can do a lot with the little space, right? Like that's what our urban farmer guys know, that you can grow a lot of food in a little bit of space. I guess for us it became more of a, we just had this passion to see a chunk of land regenerated. And like, so our farm was for decades a grain farm. So it was just commercially grain farmed, big tractors, spray, just, yeah. So it really compacted soil. It was not healthy. It was not, so it's been, I think, watching just the small things that we have done on the property, the huge change that has made, like we've diversified the ecosystem in the short time we've been there, and the health of the soil that's coming back. It's really, really amazing to see. So we were on a little bit of a bigger scale than just wanting to provide for ourselves, but it was that need to see what we could do with that kind of space. So it's been really cool. And again, too, like that connection of, we both had office jobs. We were both from a technology background, and sitting at a desk and a computer and just needing to be outside more, and that physical labor too side of it. Like it's a huge change, and it's not easy, but it's made a huge mental health change for both of us, and physical health too. So we do a lot of different bits and pieces. So when we've like, even when we first bought the property, we were both still doing our tech jobs here in Calgary and working that. And then I stopped working more to start our family. But then my husband started incorporating the urban farming. So that's where he really got his start, with just doing picked up some yards on his route to his office job. And so he would go in the mornings and do watering and weeding and come back and do back home and do that too. So yeah, it was always there's always other jobs that you kind of have to pick up. And like right now I'm doing, like I do all the social media for YYC Growers, and it's pretty part-time. I'm trying to think of the other odd things. Yeah, you just feel like you pick up odd jobs here and there for different things. And we have investments and stuff like that financially help us out for off-farm income. So yeah, I know, because the dream is, of course, that the farm makes enough money that you live off of it. That's the thing though with today with farming, like, I mean, because you can be, even when we end up moving out there and are just doing farming, I still imagine we're going to be doing other jobs, that because you can do lots online, and you know, and we have to be back and forth to the city for deliveries and things. You kind of just incorporate it in however you need it to work, right? So I'm just hoping that swing of like mostly in the city to mostly on the farm, that's what we want to get to. So yeah. So yeah, so our farm, the second question we had was just what do you grow and raise? And so our biggest focus, aside from like the fact that we do egg production, is the soil health and regenerating the part of the land that we have access to actually make it healthy again, and more sustainable farming, right? So it's not just us taking what we need from the farm and making a living off of it. Everything, all our big projects for the farm are always looking towards the future generations, whether that's our family or someone else's family, whoever takes it over after us, right? So we grow grass, really. I mean, our biggest thing is that we do pasture, right? Like that's our biggest thing, is just the pasture that it's all been reseeded, so there's no more grain farming, it's just pasture. And we have we don't own our own cows, but we've made this wonderful relationship with a rancher that's very nearby, just like a 5-minute drive away. And he's teaching us all about cattle and raising cows, and in turn we're teaching him about doing intensive grazing, because that's never how he grazed his cattle before. And he's seeing a huge difference in the health and size of the cows that are coming off of our pastures compared to the other places that he grazes at during the season. So that's been our biggest thing. And then the chickens are I love them. They're my love my chickens. And so so then we do the laying hens are kind of our year-round income for the farm. And so yeah,
there is a reason we call you the chicken whisperer.
yes, I know. I've got you can't see it, but I've got it says Raising Chickens and Children t-shirt. So
very nice.
That's my thing. So yeah, so the cattle, like, you know, originally we thought of course we'll eventually we'll get our own cows, but you kind of learn that you don't necessarily need to own and do all that stuff yourself. And that's part of where I think farmers get a little bit more successful in terms of, you know, so often people ask, well, how did you afford to buy land? I'm like, well, you don't have to buy land, like leasing land to rent, there's lots of other options, I feel like, nowadays. And it's not just about owning a piece of land and then like owning all your own animals and owning all your own equipment. I think you have to look at it a bit more community based, especially for first generation farmers that you're starting with nothing, right? And so you just make these connections in the community. And we met the rancher because he owns a land excavation company. He was helping to put in our dugout and our roads, and then was looking, and we mentioned to him that we were going back to pasture, and he's like, I have cows. And so it's just, you know, that we couldn't have planned that, like that just, you know, I have no idea how you plan to find someone to graze their cattle, but it just happened. So yeah, it's been good.
one of the stories that I love about your operation too, though, is his name's Jim, right?
Yeah.
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 Jim was asking how many years Sarah had been working with cattle, because Sarah also has a pretty natural way with the herd, and so Jim just assumes that she's been handling cattle for like since a child, and Sarah's like, no, brand new.
Nope, I touched my first cow last week. That was like, that was the conversation. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, some things come naturally to some people,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think you're in a good spot. So I'd love you to share your Instagram feed, just
Oh
to,
yes.
I
Yeah.
mean,
We were
even if
gonna.
we can get a sense of what the farm looks like, and then also even your animals.
Yeah. So is that sharing properly? Did I do that?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. So yeah, we are on Instagram, The Happiness by the Acre, and I'm spending more time on YYC Growers lately. So but
Thank you.
yes, you're welcome. But so we have our laying hens. These are
They're
some of the
gorgeous
ones.
photos, Sarah. They're gorgeous photos. It's a
Well, that's the thing
fantastic.
too. We learned early on to gotta document. You gotta it's just, so this is an idea of what our so this is now that the snow's melted, the land is thawed enough, so we put the hens out onto pasture. So this is one of our mobile coops, and I know it doesn't look mobile, but we actually do move those like every 3 days. We have a tiny tractor, we hook it up and we just drag it to a next area. And so then that's where they go into sleep and lay, and we wrap it with electric, this fencing that goes around it is electrified to keep we've got lots of predators, coyotes and things like that, so just keeps them safe. And we don't have too many issues with critters getting in there, so they do really good, and they're so much happier obviously out on the pasture than they do have to spend the rest of they do like the winter and stuff. We have a big barn. I don't know if I've got a photo of it somewhere here, but they just are free ranging in the barn. And then so these are some of our cow friends that one of the benefits of not owning the cows is, well, Marcus considers it a benefit, and I'm always sad, but we don't have to do any of the calving. So I want to be more involved with that kind of stuff eventually here too, which is another, when we're out there more full time, we can just pop over and help Jim with cows more. So this is one of our friends, and this mama cow, this is her first time calving, and she was at our farm the very first year we had cows, and she was one of our best friends, 7F. So it was really magical to see her have her own calf this year, and I'm looking forward to watching the herd develop over time with us now too. Even they're not even our cows, but just it's pretty awesome. And so yeah, our kiddos do help with all the washing and washing and packaging. And our little day old chicks, when they come in, this was this year's hens, they grow fast. And the ducks, we've got the ducks out there too. So yeah, our Instagram, we show kind of everything. It's all hodgepodge, city life, farm life, and kid life too. We're doing all the homeschooling and everything right now. It's been a good, fun mix of everything. I was trying to find if there was any photos. It's been a while since this is all the winter stuff that we have going on. We also do, we do have a little store, it's just like a shed building on our farm. But we do, we sell the mob honey and lots of other local made goods and things like that to our little farm store, which is fun. That's one reason why I like wanting to do the markets with the YYC Growers for their be local market, just because I have a background in all the local market stuff and I miss selling things.
Nice.
So.
Is there a chicken in a tub of water just up?
Oh yes, this one is one that we thought she had been, I found her, she was, I thought she'd been pecked at by her, this was in the winter time, I thought she'd been pecked at by the rest of the flock, because sometimes they can be not nice to each other if they like, yeah. So, and so I gave her an Epsom salt bath and she got a nice soak. She'd gotten, it was her around her vent where she lays her eggs. It was all bleeding and stuff. And it turned out actually that our hens ended up with a type of mite this past winter that like, anyways, so it's a type of mite that lives its entire life on the host, like on the hen, and it drains their blood very quickly. So we actually had quite an emergency once it was identified what it was, because they can start to pass within like a week's time from blood loss because of the mites. So that was a fun new thing to learn to deal with. So we didn't end up losing any hens over it. We just we did give the medication. We're not against giving our animals any medication if they need it for anything. It did mean we had to go for a month without eggs from them because the medication can possibly spread into the egg when it's laid. So
interesting.
that was, yeah. So those, it's just one of those, I know that there are some farms that do like super organic methods, and they may not do medicated or do medicated feed and things like that. Our philosophy is more it's well-being of the animal. Like it's not all business driven, and it's like, yeah, if it's going to help the animal, then it's just something we do, and then we figure out the repercussions with, like in that case, it was, like I said, it was 30 days without eggs from those hens. We actually ended up I think we collected all the eggs. It was winter, so they just froze in the barn in bags, and then they went off to be fed to pigs at another farm. So there you go. So it didn't get all wasted, but it was one of those really sad, oh, these are perfect eggs, I just don't know how safe they are. So
right.
But yeah, so the flock came back just good. They're all, yeah. But anyway, she got a nice soak, and I also bought a hairdryer just for the hens at the farm also, because it's winter, you can't just let them stay wet. So she got all fluffed up and dried. It turned out to be a day at the spa for her.
Right, of course.
I know. And ironic, like it's one of those things, because I didn't know anything about chickens until we just dived into it, but they actually love bath time. Like I've had to give several of them baths for different things, and they just get so relaxed and just sit there and kind of float. Like it's it's really funny. You would think they would be flapping and freaking out, but
yeah,
not at all. So yeah, that we've got and I do keep
face.
What's that?
Oh, just the cat face, a little shocked.
Yes, the cats. You got to have cats in there.
Of course, absolutely.
Oh yes. And I do keep because I can't stand not having chickens in my life daily now. I do have backyard hens here in the city as well, but I always sneak back and forth. Like they'll move out with us when we move to the farm for the summer, but then I bring them back to the city. So this is one of my backyard hen gals. She was from the farm, but I moved her in. So yep. So yeah, there's we do, yeah. So it's just a lot of people are always wondering how we like, I guess I can't stress enough, if there is so much research and so much planning and stuff that you can do to get going, but part of it too, we realized we just had to do it. Like, and I guess that was sort of the switching point, was just like, we just need to get chickens finally. Like we can only prepare ourselves for so long, and we just got to try it. And then it is a crash course. You learn every day or every week as you go along. But I think that's the most rewarding part for me, is like just the learning about the animals and their care, and the ups, like it's heart-wrenching and it's hard, but then those wins are so awesome, like seeing that calf born this spring and stuff, like that's really cool. And even seeing our hens from our first batch, they're still laying, like they're it's really cool to see that. So, and same with the cows, we could only prepare so much, and then it was just like, well, now we actually need to work with real live animals. There's nothing more, we just got to try this and see if it works. So, and I think most of farming is like that. It's the same with growing. I mean, you just got to start sticking stuff in soil and seeing what happens. So yeah. So yeah, that's, I don't know what other food, we do a lot of food stuff on the obviously. Oh, and yes, enrichment activities. We do.
Wow.
In the winter time, it's super important that they have, like, they even have a xylophone. We have a xylophone we put out for them to play with, and like, and then we hang food and treats, and they love mirrors, anything shiny, like pie plates. You just like hang pie plates and it keeps them busy, and anything like this would just helps them with staying, they don't get bored in the barn, and then they don't peck and hurt their sisters and stuff too. So
Right.
yep, it's fun.
We might need to have the chicken orchestra sometime next winter.
No. No, I can't get
plates.
Yes, I know. I need to start them out younger, because this first batch, or this current batch, weren't that into it, but my first batch are like super much more into it. So I think I need to like start it when they're not quite chick stage but pullet stage, and then introduce that to them. So it's just,
with some treats on the keys or something.
Yeah, and mount it. I need to mount it on the wall too, I decided, because they just end up burying it after a little while. So
And then a little peanut butter nut thing that you slap on there. That
and just let me.
yeah. Love it.
Yeah, they've got lots of personalities in there. So